Strixhaven Curriculum of Chaos being released last year, and Dragonlance on the horizon with a new unearthed arcana, people are wondering more and more about feats that come with backgrounds. I think it's possible to make this work, and I think it's possible to incorporate into your games today. So let's talk about it, and I have a proposed system for you that you can easily implement. Hey everyone, Spooky here. Recently the Dragonlance Unearthed Arcana came out, and it's followed a trend that came out of Strixhaven. For those of you who aren't aware, both of these modules are going to add backgrounds in D&D that are going to come out with feats. And this seems to be getting a lot of mixed reactions, so I thought I'd sort of go through it a little bit, but really talk more about how we can probably incorporate feats into our existing backgrounds for our players and giving them a selection to really help build diversity in D&D while not immediately having a level 1 Great Weapon Master, Polearm Master sort of thing happening immediately with the Barbarian. So to give a bit more context, Strixhaven, when you chose a background relative to that school, would actually give you a specific feat. It would give you like an initiate feat, and then there's like a mascot feat, and I think there's possibly like one other side feat. And you'd only be able to take the first one at level 1 or level 4, and then the second one has to be level 4. So what you'd see there is it would give you spells, it would give you this, that, the other. This one seems a lot stronger in Dragonlance. In Dragonlance, you get superiority die, you get free maneuvers, you get like additions to mounted combat that are just sort of free, and they reset on a long rest as opposed to just a short rest. As I shared this with my party, they felt that it was quite powerful and that there's basically no reason to pick a non-feat background now. Everyone is going to be a Dragonlance Knight or a High Mage, and that would be it. For those of you who sort of like use your backgrounds as like an integral piece of your character as opposed to just like patching up a few bits and pieces and maybe gaining a nice little flavor ability. But the one thing that I think stood out in the Dragonlance piece that wasn't in Strixhaven was that if you pick any other background, you get to pick out of a couple of feats at level 1 and then at level 4. So it seems like the Dragonlance campaign, they're going to balance around you getting 2 free feats. If you pick up a Dragonlance background, you have to take the Dragonlance feats, which is fine. So I believe that the feats that you can get are skilled, which is, it's okay. Tough, which I think at level 1 is pretty strong. It probably, I think it mitigates like a lot of the reasons that you'd multi-class into like have a higher AC potentially as some characters. Although taking no hits is definitely better than having 2 extra HP at level 1. Level 4, you get like a free choice of, I think, where is it? You get Alert, which is not too strong. I think Alert is a nice touch because it's a feat that really is kind of a lot of flavor plus the initiative bonus, which is really kind of the reason you take it. And then Mobile, Sentinel, and Warcaster, all of which are, I'm going to say Mobile's like an A tier perk, and Warcaster and Sentinel are S tier. Warcaster is basically like mandatory for any full caster build. I think it's absolutely insane to give that to someone for free, especially given how powerful casters get. Sentinel is pretty decent just all around. So I would honestly say that Sentinel is, very, very strong, especially if you want to try run Polearm Master and Sentinel, where you can like opportunity attack as they approach, and then suddenly they can't move closer, and then they're stuck at 10 feet away from you. Like getting that stuff online, normally you can do it by level 4, but it costs you 2 feats, whereas in this case you can get it done by level 4. So like what you can do now with Sentinel being a free level 4 feat is you could take your free feat, so probably Tough. You could take an additional feat, which would probably be Great Weapon Master or Polearm Master. Probably Polearm Master, I'd say, at that level. And then at level 4, you can use your ASI for a feat, so Great Weapon Master. And then you can use your free feat for Sentinel. So you can have all 3 of those running at level 4 plus Tough. So the way that we balance encounters using the system has got to fundamentally change, basically. I think CR calc tables are more or less going to be pretty useless. That's fine, because I think a lot of people don't use them to begin with, so that should be easy. But I think that, there's probably a better way to balance this around. And I'm like, well, we have all these other things. A lot of people might want to incorporate like Dragonlance setting type things into their campaign later, like as it comes out. So what's a system that we could utilize? So one thing I do want to talk about is during my campaign, maybe like 10 sessions in, the players came across this vampire, and they had the vampire had been locked away for a few hundred years, and he was just this like emaciated body. And as the players went in, he was trapped in a circle. He's just said, "They're like, dude, I'm done. Like this whole like the world change. Like I've had like so long to think about this. Like the whole world domination thing. It's just not going to work out. I'm done. I just want to go off and like drink some sheep blood and chill and like figure out something else to do in this world." And then as a reward, well, he charmed one of the players into breaking the seal. But then as a reward, he gave them these crystals, and those crystals were free feats. The players could pick any feat that they wanted. And I think that might have been a slight mistake on my part, but it ended up being fine. My players are a little overtuned still, but that means I get to throw more cool stuff at them, like with pretty much abandon. But what did that do? Like it did change the balance and like some of the considerations I had to make in the campaign. The min-max players did min-max. I think like to people who are concerned that this is going to allow additional min-maxing, just know that by the end of your campaign, they're going to have been min-maxing the whole time anyway. And you're potentially missing out on your more character-focused players, like having really cool abilities and like things that they could do, or even just bridging that gap. But at the same time, the list that we want to come up with at the end of this, we don't want to allow min-maxing. I think that we want to enable players to pick cool, flavorful abilities that give them like a bit of a power bump, without completely breaking it due to like meta feat combinations. But it is important to remember that your min-maxers are always going to min-max. Like they're gonna use whatever they can, find whatever items they can in your world, try and roll for things, and they're really gonna try and like push that character to the extent because that's what's fun for them. In the meantime, the characters who should be having like new aspects of flavor built into their world, they should be sort of enabled to do that without suffering too much. So maybe they pick up the feat to help balance out the power dynamic. Maybe they pick up the feat to add more flavor to their character and make more fun moments. But ultimately, what happened in my game is everyone had a lot of fun, and I think that we could probably use this system with a bit of tuning to have a lot of fun with our players. So I went through every feat so far in the game, and I have included the Strixhaven ones in the final list, not as a judgment on their power, but because you can get them with the Strixhaven background, so that kind of makes sense. The system I propose, I would love to come with like a criteria. At first I tried to see like, okay, well, does it give you an extra attack? That should be banned. Does it boost your damage? That should be banned. But like there's a lot of things in there. One thing that I'm pretty sure I'm not going to allow as a free feat is going to be half feats that boost your +1s. I think having a variant human being able to start with like an 18 in wisdom is probably too strong. Or a variant human with like an 18 in dex, or that sort of thing. What I've done is I've banned the feats that I think are too strong, and I'll go over those, and then I'll sort of list out the potential exceptions that I'd make for half feats, and then I'd probably go through and just sort of talk through some of the notable inclusions on the final list as well. So Great Weapon Master and Sharpshooter, I think, speak for themselves. They are so good that you would want to just spend a feat at level 1 or level 4 to get those. I think Sentinel and Polearm Master are exactly the same. The amount of utility and damage that they provide, and Crossbow Expert as well, the amount of utility and damage that these things provide is just insane in those early levels. I think that if you want to be utilizing those sorts of things, you should be doing it yourself. The fact that you could, if this list was just to have any feat, the fact that you could have Crossbow Expert Sharpshooter at level 1 is wild to me. Like that extra +20 damage would kill pretty much everything that you'd face at level 1, all the way through probably to like level 3. Honestly, I don't think you'd fight too much that would have more than 20 hit points as a single entity, outside of like large single boss encounters, that sort of thing. Warcaster, Telepathic, Telekinetic. Telepathic and Telekinetic are both very good feats. Having free access to the Mage Cantrip and the Shove bonus action, along with the ASI increase, and then the same thing for Telepathic, being able to detect thoughts at will, and then having that +1 to your Wisdom, your Charisma. I think too strong. Warcaster speaks for itself. Absolutely one of the most fundamental caster abilities in the game, unless you somehow manage to get your hands on Constitution proficiency at higher levels. But Warcaster is it averages out to a +5. So really, Warcaster sort of outshines Constitution proficiency, and then also you could probably just get both, Fey Touched and Shadow Touched, I think, especially with some of the new spells in the game, absolutely too strong to be given out for free. Fey Touched will give you access to Silvery Barbs, for example, as well as a free Misty Step from level 1. I think if you want it, you should spend an actual feat for it, or a chance for an ASI for it. As well as Shadow Touch. Invisibility is very good. The spells are pretty good. Disguise Self is one thing that you can cast for free once per day. It's an incredibly versatile spell, so that's where I'd put that. I've put Elven Accuracy and Gunner in as well. Elven Accuracy, I think, speaks for itself. A lot of builds will crit fish with Elven Accuracy. Rogues love Elven Accuracy. I think Gunner speaks for itself. Heavy Armor Master, I wasn't 100% on. I think Heavy Armor Master is mostly because it's the ASI, but I think the reduction in damage, especially at early levels, is something that you either want to make your characters this is what I do, or you can probably just spend something for it later. But that's, once again, you starting with the 18 strength for free as a variant human, or as any creature basically. Outside of a custom lineage, I think is probably a bit too powerful. Lucky, I think, speaks for itself. It's just 3 points that you get every day to re-roll a d20 for free. You can have that as your as your actual feat. So you can and then Piercer, Crusher, Slasher. Obviously, half feats all have very good effects. I think Crusher is particularly good with its ability to force movement. So I think that's something that you'd want to spend on if you wanted to have it. But I think you can kind of see that from here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stop level 1 and even in some cases level 4 combos of your fundamental feats coming through, because while I think that this is nice because if you want to add some flavor to a paladin, so if I want to make a paladin that has Shield Master, that's very tough to do. You'd be better off going with a greatsword, because sacrificing that ASI for Shield Master just isn't worth it. Whereas if you can get Shield Master for free, your paladin's probably not even going to do particularly better than the greatsword, but at least it's a nice piece of flavor that you can have, having that shove bash action as your bonus action, and then working that into your character and building that out is, more or less something handy that you can run. For half feats, I'm just gonna put these up, but honestly, this kind of came from the idea that I can't really give a good reason for banning Chef outside of the fact that it gives an ASI. But I would probably put in a blanket rule that outside of maybe 1 or 2 exceptions to your game, I would probably say that all half feats should be banned from the free selection. So Chef, there's some really nice racial feats that I think you could probably allow. Fey Teleportation is basically a weaker version of Fey Touch anyway. If someone wants to have that as their free feat, and instead of just waiting or using a resource to pick up Fey Touched, I think go for it. More power to you. What else? Observant, just you could probably allow Observant, Athlete, Revenant Blade. I think, what else is here? Dwarven Fortitude. I think you could probably allow some of these things in for free. Keen Mind, I think you can allow in for free. Linguist as well. Those are probably all right to allow into your game. I think having the blanket rule and setting up those exceptions works for your game that you're planning is probably the best way to go, though. Looking through the final list, so there's actually really some really strong, good feats in here, though. you'll find that like things like alert stay in there. You've got defensive duelist, which is pretty decent for a martial character. It's sort of like a 1 attack shield that you're going to put up. Obviously not worth a full feat. I think that there's a lot of these though, like fighting initiative if you want to be able to get an extra fighting style, or healer or inspiring leader, all make it into this. I think that the ones I would probably look at on top of that is I've allowed tough, and I'm coming at it with the experience of if it is sort of, wild, it's only going to be wild to like level 4. And then it should calm down. And then, maybe the next game I won't allow tough, but I think that it's probably safer to include it than not include it. And then out of the racial feats that you can see here, I have kept Bountiful Luck in. I'm very tempted not to, but I think Bountiful Luck is a fun feature that halfling character specifically can take, and I think giving that to them probably isn't going to break the world, compared to giving the paladin access to giving like the fighter with a longbow access to elven accuracy and sharpshooter at level 1. But I think that's more or less it. I hope this system is useful. I'll have the list in a little PDF document down below that you guys can just go and download. Looking forward to making a little bit more D&D content and talking about some of my learnings. But hopefully that was really useful and fun for you guys. I'll catch y'all later.
Unless you rolled a nat 1.
I can't roll a nat 1.
You can roll a nat 1.
I can?
With Silver Tongued, you can. Yeah, and Reliable Talent, because it's a critical failure.
Oh, okay. That's right, yes, you're right. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, look, I'd say that you pretty easily get a wave off, right? Like, I wouldn't. Jesus, Mr. Popo! Oh my god!
I wonder if I got that on camera.
We definitely heard it.